Hey guys, this is Chris with a 5-minute review of News of the World. I love modern westerns. Unforgiven, Tombstone, Young Guns, and The Hateful Eight are some of my favorite movies of all time. The plots in westerns are usually simple, with a focus on characters and unique surroundings and time periods on full display. Any new western is appealing to me, but what really pushed my interest in News of the World over the top was that Tom Hanks was in the lead role with Paul Greengrass directing. The movie is based on the novel of the same name by Paulette Giles. The film takes place in 1870 Texas, 5 years after the Civil War has ended. Hanks plays ex-Confederate Captain Jefferson Kidd that makes a modest living by traveling to cities across Texas, reading various news stories to crowds, paying 10 cents a person. There's a strong undercurrent of tension in every city between Union soldiers and locals still bitter about how the war ended and their place in the post-Civil War country. During his travels, Captain Kidd comes across an overturned wagon with the driver lynched in a nearby tree. He there finds a 10-year-old girl, Johanna, and official papers in the wagon's wreckage that indicate she is orphaned and needs to be transported to her living relatives in Castroville, which is located in the hill country of Texas. From this point on, the movie revolves around three main storylines: Kidd's quest to get the child back to her family, the relationship between Kidd and Johanna, and Kidd's journey to overcome his personal demons. Hanks turns in an understated performance that's perfect for the role, if not for the cliche of the character archetype that's highlighted in westerns. The casting of Hanks actually allows the audience to assume certain qualities of the character without explanation. That helps a lot with the minimalistic approach to the storytelling that the director took. Johanna is played by the talented Helena Zengel. She also maintains a minimalistic approach to her character, which serves her and the relationship with Hanks really well. She does an amazing job of conveying her character's pain with layers of emotions that come through slowly throughout the film. Like any good Western, there's a cast of supporting characters that bring the landscape to life and help provide context to situations and act as backdrop for the development of our two main characters. Michelangelo Covino turns in a stellar performance as an early nemesis for Kids. Mayor Winningham is always great and continues that trend in a short appearance, and Christopher Hagen chews the scenery later in the film. If you're from Texas like I am, it's exciting to see a movie based in this era only in Texas, visiting cities you know so well like Dallas, San Antonio, and Wichita Falls. And while this film likely had a lower budget, the work by director Paul Greengrass and cinematographer Darius Wolski brings Texas to life in 1870 with an incredible attention to detail, feeling that you're there in the small cities, and obviously the obligatory shots of the beautiful vistas. Throughout the movie, Kidd runs into constant trouble trying to get Johanna to her relatives. This comes in many forms, including people and nature. And while the stakes feel high at times, you just can't escape the feeling that you already know how this is going to end. Early on, you're likely going to predict most, if not all, of the ending. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but it does keep the movie from being anything special. And as much as I enjoyed it, I felt like I was watching a movie on rails that wasn't likely going to deviate into any unexpected direction. What further keeps this good movie, and this is absolutely a good movie, from being great, is a trepidation to lean into some ugly truths sitting on the peripheral of the story's focus, and really in some cases on the edges of scenes. I mentioned earlier in the film there's a lynching, and that's treated like background music. Captain Kidd fought for the Confederacy, but there's no indication if he believed in the cause, or there's no exploration of the moral implications of his choices. There's a lot of focus on the killing and discrimination of Indians, which is further carried through in Johanna's personal journey, but we never deal with it head on. And there are further moral quandaries brought up throughout Johanna's backstory. While some of these items are critical to the story, others aren't. And by purposely bringing them into the story, the filmmakers owed it to the audiences to address them in a more satisfactory fashion. They chose not to, and they kept the story surface level. And to me, it feels like a cop-out, especially given our current climate and current times. It was a missed opportunity to address things like systemic racism from a historical perspective, but through the lens of our modern sensibilities. The runtime of 118 minutes feels like the right length. And kudos to the editing team for finding the right balance of time committed to various aspects of the story that mostly stick the landing. The music, composed by James Newton Howard, works seamlessly with the characters and landscapes throughout the film. News of the World is exactly what it set out to be. It's a modern Western that effectively brings us into the world that is 1870 Texas, but doesn't tread any new ground or pack any surprises that elevate it above better Westerns, such as Unforgiven or Hateful Eight. It took a good story and focused on execution, but it misses opportunities to teach and inform the audience on how we can take lessons of past atrocities and apply them to the current state of the world. Overall, I gave this movie an 8.0 out of 10. Some other review sites to consider for calibration: IMDb gave it a 7.2 out of 10. Rotten Tomatoes has it at an 86% fresh rating, and it's currently sitting at 73% on Metacritic. It's not a dull film by any means, but it's not one you'll be thinking about much after you leave the theater or the comfort of your couch if you watched it on demand.